Hey guys, welcome back to the George Poulos podcast. So it's Friday afternoon. I've got one more call and then I'm off for the weekend, baby. I feel in this moment, I feel actually desperate to do one of my weekend detoxes. So as soon as I'm done with this last call, which is a consultation this evening, I'm done. I'm turning off my phone. Actually, I might do an apartment tour tomorrow morning. So I might need my phone for that. So I might not be able to turn my phone off until after that. But that's Saturday morning, and that still gives me plenty of time. I'm noticing as we turn to spring here in New York City, there's a lot of energy, a lot of things going on. I'm noticing I'm losing my deeper connection with myself. This is not a bad thing. It's not a failure, nothing like that. But I'm just noticing this tension in my being. I'm feeling drained. And I'm feeling like what I feel called to do is take another full weekend retreat, which I've been doing almost every weekend now. If you recall, I shared that I had been doing my system as of a few months ago was one weekend day per month. I would do a 24-hour tech detox silent retreat type of thing, type of practice. But as the months have been going on, I've been craving more and more and more of that silence and solitude. And it's hitting the point where after a full work week of engaging with the world, doing my thing with people, that sort of thing, responding to the demands of the world, creative expression, etc. Come Friday, more often than not, I'm like ready to go back into the metaphorical cave. And what I'm noticing is like, let me clip on this mic for a second so I could use my hands. What I'm noticing is the mind, it wants to like engage with the world out there, and it like creates this tether. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I'm really, really feeling called more and more and more to detether and to go into deep meditation and extended periods of solitude. And within that solitude, I'm getting just tremendous clarity, tremendous visceral experience of oneness, mystical experiences, connection to God, visceral experiences of God, of truth. Much, much, much clarity on all aspects of my life is coming out of this solitude. It's tremendously difficult, right? So each and every time I sit down for meditation, not each and every time, but most of them, it's difficult. Again, the mind is clinging to these objects in the outside world. The mind is clinging to the world. Because the mind thinks that there's salvation in the world, okay? And so when you sit for meditation, there's a withdrawal period. And same thing when you do a weekend silent retreat, there's a withdrawal period where your mind fights with everything that it can fight with to get you to keep clinging on. But something happens if you sit there long enough in silence where your mind releases the grasp, and then suddenly you connect to some deeper part of yourself, which the best way that I can conceptualize and put into words is God. You connect with God. You connect with the universe. You connect with truth. That's what I'm finding. I'm finding it more and more in just pure silence and nothingness. It reminds me a lot of what Osho taught. He would always speak about silence. A lot of mystical spiritual teachers speak about silence. I never quite understood it. My practices always historically looked pretty active, like focusing on the breath or doing the future self meditation or doing the weekly artist day or writing the morning pages. All of a sudden there's not only a pull to silence and solitude and simplification, which I'll speak more about in a second, but there's a pull to more and more and more of that, okay? So I did the 5-day silent retreat at the end of 2024. I have full intentions on a full 10-day silent retreat at the end of 2025. That will be a yearly tradition. But I'm in this life position, this life circumstance where this apartment is no longer aligned. The lease is ending in a few months here. I'm being called to shed all of these objects. I'm pretty much being called to shed all of my belongings. It's hitting a point, you see all this stuff here. It's hitting a point where it's getting very, very difficult for me to let go of things. Like I've hit that layer where it's like I'm being called to let go of some of my books here. And I'm like, oh my God, this too? I have to let go of this too? I just let go of a nightstand that I had for many, many years, and that one gave me a pang of emotion and grief. And I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next. I don't know if it's an apartment. I don't know if it's roommates. Living with my family is an option. The more stuff I let go of, the more options I realize I have. I'm feeling lighter and lighter and lighter and freer and freer. And it's not just the shedding of the physical objects, although that's a big part of it. It's the parallel shedding of the identities, of the stories. There's a lot of spring cleaning going on. It's happening in my business too. I'm really simplifying my process and how I'm doing things. So I was reminded of my first mushrooms trip, which I did a whole podcast episode about. That's up on the podcast archives. I think it's like episode 2. My first mushrooms trip, I remember. Let me wait for this siren here. Also, I'm really trying to address my vocal fry. I wonder if it's like a spiritual energetic thing of holding back. So I want to try to catch that when it's happening. See, if I speak a little more loudly and confidently, I feel like it kind of goes away. And then I notice self-consciousness around who out the window might hear me, out the door might hear me. So I do think the vocal fry comes from, there's an energetic element to that. You see? Anyways, I don't mean to bring your attention to that. You probably weren't even thinking about it. It was just my own self-consciousness. Haha. So when I did my first mushrooms trip, this was 2020, 5 years ago. 5 years ago is when this spiritual inner searching journey really started to begin for me. I had been meditating already at the time. I was very intrigued and I was doing it consistently, but it didn't fully click yet the way that it's clicked now. And now I've gone very deep into meditation. But I felt called to do mushrooms, and I did my first mushrooms trip, and I remember I was all ready. I had my journal, I had a mango smoothie, I had a paper bag with a bagel with cream cheese in it. I had my book with me. I think I had my book with me, How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. In my journal, I had written myself an entire trip guide. I had my water bottle, of course, my water bottle. I remember I was in this Brooklyn backyard with my friends doing mushrooms for the first time, and I was carrying all this stuff. It made me feel safe. I was identified with these items. And my journal, my love of bagels, my water bottle, it made me feel so safe, I put my safety in those items. And then, of course, when the mushrooms started kicking in and the trip got started very quickly, I was literally holding all these items. It was pretty funny. Look, I looked pretty funny holding all these items. Very quickly, I just released my grasp on these items and I let them all fall over the backyard floor in different places, and I couldn't care a single bit about any of these items. Not the water bottle, not the journal, not the bagel. I dropped all of these items and I had this visceral experience of how much I cling to things and objects and identities. I've just the visceral experiences was, wow, I'm holding on to a lot. I'm holding on to a lot, and it's actually, it feels so safe and cozy and familiar to cling on to these things, these objects, these identities, these labels, but it actually creates a tremendous weight. And literally, if you think about all those objects in my arms, my mobility is restricted, my freedom is constricted because I'm using my energy and contorting my body in order to hold all of these items. So the experience on the mushrooms showed me very viscerally how it's safe to let go of these items, and then suddenly you're much more free. So not only is it safe to let go of these physical items that we're holding on to and identified with, it's similarly safe to let go of the identities, the stories, the habits, and the patterns that we're holding on to because they feel comfortable, they feel familiar, and they feel safe. And this is what the ego does, right? The ego holds on to external things and identifies with them. But that weighs down the soul. The soul wants to be light and free. So I'm experiencing this, what I experienced on the mushrooms trip. It's happening again as I'm being called to shed all of these objects. Okay, I've let go. Guys, this is crazy. I've let go of my both of my vlogging cameras, my Canon G7X and my Canon M50 that I've filmed hundreds of skate videos with. I let go of those. I sold my Apple desktop computer. I deconstructed the entire studio setup I had here. I sold it all. I'm letting go of my YouTube play button. I'll be giving that to someone. I may or may not be selling it. Someone told me it's against terms of service to sell it, so I will not comment about whether I've sold it via auction style Instagram DM bidding war. I will not comment on that. But I'm letting go of these objects that I've been significantly attached to. Now, it's interesting to be letting go of these objects and really not knowing what's next, really stepping into the unknown. Literally, I don't know what is going to happen in terms of my next living situation. There's a lot of options I'm weighing. It's interesting that this shedding is happening before I have a plan. So I'm stepping into more and more lightness and openness and freedom. And it's exciting, but it is a little scary for my ego to be letting go of this structure and this familiarity and this comfort of the things and identities that I'm used to. It's scary for my ego to be letting go of that without the next plan that my ego can grasp onto for safety. It feels like stepping off the edge of a metaphorical cliff in a way. But of course, the ego thinks that there's a ground that we're going to crash into, but of course, there's no ground. When you step into the unknown, it's just a free float. You're just free floating. You're just flying. So that's kind of what it feels like I'm stepping into this spring, and it's really interesting. I can witness myself. I'm free falling, right? I'm shedding all these objects. It's happening quicker than I expected. I'm probably going to have a big emotional breakdown this weekend because I'm not even having the opportunity to grieve these objects. I'm just like, oh, there goes my Canon G7X that I've had for however many years and I filmed all these videos on. Oh, there goes my M50. Oh, there goes my nightstand. And so this shedding of the past is happening, and then I can see myself clinging, trying to grab onto something as I start free falling into the unknown. I'm trying to grab onto old identities again. I'm seeing old identities seem very appealing. Uh, Old patterns and habits. I'm seeing particularly this junk food habit is becoming really appealing. I'm looking for, I see myself, my inner child is scared of this unknown. He's clinging for safety. He's trying to grab onto a pole somewhere. And sometimes that looks like slamming some wafers. I'm being gracious with myself through this process. I'm pretty much still sitting here. So I'm going through this pain and this grief of this letting go, not knowing what's next, but feeling the lightness and the freedom of it. There's also very much an excitement and a feeling of alignment there and a feeling of opportunity, even though I don't know what the form is going to look like. As I'm in this liminal space, there is pain and grief and emotion, nostalgia, but there's also this deep excitement and wonder and curiosity and openness. And when I am in that more painful, difficult side, there is grace here. So when I'm slipping into bad patterns, I'm not doubling the pain by guilting myself about it. I'm being very compassionate myself. I'm seeing my inner child and what he's going through, and he wants to just feel safe, like it's going to be okay. Okay. And so this week is a good example, right? I'm feeling all this inner stuff, and I'm gaining this intuition about when it's time to kind of withdraw. Oh, and kind of the reason the whole move and the transition came up is because part of me, and I'm not making any claims here, I'm really in this state of openness and just seeing what options arise. Part of me is like um, thinking about doing some sort of solo travel or something like that. And it was almost surprising that that option popped in my head. I didn't really expect it. I had these assumptions about what was going to be next. And now all of a sudden, as this lightness and freedom is emerging as I shed these objects, and I expect the more belongings I donate or sell, the lighter I'll feel, the more options may pop up, the more openness there will be. Very, very interesting, right? Very interesting. This is somewhat tied to this kind of philosophy on minimalism and even financial minimalism that I'm starting to see and develop. First of all, as I sell all this stuff, I'm like, oh, here's money. Here's money. There's some more freedom. And then as I think about what's next in terms of my move, I'm thinking about rent, and I'm seeing how, and budgeting has been a part of my life as the past couple years or so. I'm seeing how when you watch your consumption, there's more freedom. If you acknowledge and eliminate unnecessary consumption, there's more freedom. And part of what has given me the freedom to do that sort of thing is I've done enough spiritual practice to realize that the wholeness comes from within, and it does not come from having a particular apartment or a particular life situation or a particular set of objects. There's no wholeness or inherent happiness within those objects. That inherent happiness is within. So then with a visceral experience of, oh, I actually don't need that much, and with a genuine, curiosity and interest and intuitive pull towards this kind of spiritual practice of simplicity and silence and emptiness, these things are creating this perfect storm for like, oh, I can kind of reduce what I'm consuming, which also creates this almost financial minimalism. And then suddenly I can make decisions that are aligned with the way that I can live in a lot more freedom, right? Because if there's a lot of consumption, especially unnecessary, unchecked consumption that hasn't been taken a look at, suddenly you've got to make choices that are going to be able to fund that consumption. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm just highlighting the connection of all of these things, the inner work, the consumption habits. These are very related, right? Less consumption, more space, more silence, more inner work happens. That's what I'm seeing on my weekend retreats. Right? When that space is not being filled by constant scrolling on social media, by constant doing, when it's just silence, then your bullshit comes to the surface. You're forced to face it. It's going to be tempting to run back into consumption. But again, you let your mind detether from the attachment to the world, to that consumption, then some tremendous healing starts to happen. Right? So the inner work and the consumption are connected, and that's all connected to the create more, to the creative side, to the action side, to how am I actually living my life and spending my time and stepping into my purpose and all of this, right? More time, more space, more inner work, more visceral understanding of the inner wholeness that we all have by default. The more one is able to live in their purpose without clinging or desperation or grasping or fear. So then, we're able to create, express authentically, live in alignment. We don't have to do things that aren't aligned just so we could afford the American dream if that's not necessarily aligned with us. That may have just been something we inherited other people's preferences. And who knows if that's actually their preference or if they just inherited it too and never took a look at it themselves. Right? So all of this is all connected, and it's all unfolding for me this spring, and I share it with you in hopes to share a relatable experience, in hopes to inspire you, to make you feel less alone. Many, many, many of us are going through similar things. The more I host these weekly freedom calls with my freedom circle, the more I host client sessions and work with people one-on-one, the more I see that these transitions, these truths, these principles, these changes are things that we all go through. These are very universal things. So I share this to process my own journey. I also share it to create community and connection, hopefully resonance with you, hopefully inspiration in you to look at your life, to look at your alignment, to trust in your process, in your sheddings, in your letting goes. As you step into limitlessness, freedom, as you step into alignment and who you're meant to be, into your true service on this earth. We're very much all in this soup together. That's how spring and this warmer weather kind of feels to me. It kind of feels like this soup. I reflected this on TikTok, but literally as it shifts to warmer weather, I feel the boundaries between my skin and the air dissolving, and suddenly I'll have these moments of like literally merging, like non-dual experiences of merging into this soup of this city. And it's been very beautiful to sit out in short sleeves on the stoop and strum the guitar a little and just be a part of it. Beautiful sunset evenings here in Ridgewood. The trees are exploding with leaves. And what's next is unknown, and I think that's perfectly okay. So very, very, very beautiful to share this space with you all. If you're interested in connecting more, I have a free Freedom Circle community that I'll welcome you to join us. I host a call every Wednesday, meditations every Friday. I gotta say, I'm thinking about dropping the meditations. It kind of seems like a leaf that wants to shed. I'm nervous and watchful that that's some sort of a bad pattern, though, but I'll just put that out there. And I also offer one-on-one sessions, one-on-one mentorship, long-term, short-term, whatever serves you. Everything is at that link in the show notes in the description. So sending very much love to you this spring, or whatever season it is, wherever you are, whatever season it is in your life. I'm here, I'm supporting you. I'm going through it with you. Lots of love. I'll see you soon.